Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Building the Dream. In this podcast, I explore the personal stories of 12 Dutch tech titans. My name is Leopold and I'm the host of this podcast. Today, I have the honor to talk to Feike Groen. Feike is one of the few people in the Netherlands who knows what it is to achieve real scale. During his 15 years on board at bol.com, he helped the organization grow from 100 to 1,000 people, and their turnover exceeded more than €1 billion per year. Feike became the IT and business director at bol.com and was one of the leaders behind the transformation from an online store to an open marketplace, where many retailers and brands could sell their goods. Since 2021, he has been brought on board as Vice President of Product and Tech at the fast-growing Channel Engine. Channel Engine connects brands and retailers worldwide with marketplaces and online channels, and there too, $1 billion turnover is now almost in sight. According to the people around him, Feike is the embodiment of the fact that if you really want to scale as a company, you need to gather extremely senior and experienced people around you who can take full ownership. Today, he shares all his highs, lows, and lessons with us. Welcome, Feike. What a pleasure to have you here today. How are you this morning?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
Thanks. Yeah.
Are you excited? This is your first podcast?
Yeah, it's my first podcast. So, like I said yesterday through the email already, that gives a bit of excitement.
Yeah. But your voice is strong enough today because late December we had to cancel because of a cold.
Yeah, so late December I had a cold and my voice was gone. And then again last week I was sick, like I told you, but I think we'll manage today.
So now you have a good voice, a little bit of a sexy edge. But
yeah, let's hope so. Yeah. But that should work.
Work. Before we go into depth, I have a few quick questions for you.
Yeah.
Dilemmas. A team of 10 people or 1,000 people?
10 people.
A strictly managed organization or chaos and improvisation every day?
The last one. That's what I'm known for. Yeah.
Mr. Chaos?
I like chaos, yeah.
All right. A nice, quiet working day or having a beer with your team after celebrating a thrilling Black Friday?
The last one.
Yeah. You like the excitement?
Yeah, I like the excitement. Also, the in this dilemma, if you achieve something, I think you also earn the right to celebrate and to, if you work hard, you also have the right to play hard afterwards and celebrate what you achieved.
Your entire team in one place or spread across many places around the world?
I think the first one, if it would practically work, which it doesn't, so I love the fact that we are spread around the world, but if it could practically work, to all be together, if you could beam up people and and just be together every day, that would be my preference, to be honest.
Working for a company with a turnover of 5 million or 5 billion?
Wouldn't really matter, to be honest. So turnover for me is not the finance is not the goal. So kind of building the dream is the goal, and then the turnover is the fuel to make that possible.
Appreciation from your boss or from your team members?
From my team members.
Buy everything online and no more physical stores in the streets, or buy everything in physical stores and no more web shops?
Oh man. Yeah, that's a hard. I don't know.
You have to
Neither,
choose.
I think. Do I have to choose? I really have to
dilemma.
choose. Well, then unfortunately the last one, because I can't imagine a world where there wouldn't be any physical stores anymore. So if the consequence would be that webshop have to die, which I don't want, but if that's the dilemma, I couldn't think of a world where physical stores would be gone.
All right, good. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start at the beginning.
All right.
How did you grow up, Feike, and where?
I grew up in the north of the Netherlands, so in Friesland, in a very small town called Uitwellingerga. It's actually a twin village, so you have Oppenhuizen and Uitwellingerga, two very small villages of around 1,000 people each. As one, we see it as one village. It's two villages. I was born there, and I lived there until I was 11. Then my parents moved. And that was a very, how do you call that? Safe, protective childhood. So. I think in a Fries village, it's hard to get into from the outside. But if you're born into it, it's a very pleasant way to grow up. Mm-hmm. Everyone knew who I was. I knew everyone. So there's a lot of, in the village, everyone knows each other. That has also its downsides, but I didn't know that as a child, right? Mm-hmm. So I liked it. Then my parents moved. So my dad he became a teacher. And then you still had these rules that you had to live nearby the school. So we had to move we lived kind of in the west of Friesland. We had to move to the east. And that was when I was 11. So I did my last class of elementary school at another village. And then in hindsight, the first time I discovered that these kind of Frisian villages are very good if you were born into it, but getting into it from the outside, even for us being Fries, was quite hard, to be honest. So this village we went to, we never really connected.
Okay.
Also for me, it meant I didn't really connect to new friends there, but I kind of stuck with the old friends, which I was a sailor, so I did regatta sailing in my youth, so I met my old friends every weekend anyhow. But it was, for me, a bit harder to get used to not having so many connections there, not having so many friends. Didn't make my youth bad or something, so I learned a lot from it. I still had a great time living in the other villages, but it did kind of learn me like, where you are born, where you grow up, that does mean something, and it does do something with you.
So how did you spend your time? What kind of interest did you have?
I liked soccer a lot, so I always had two sports, so sailing and soccer. And that took a lot of free time. So sailing just is the whole weekend. So as of kind of end of March, beginning of April, the season kind of starts, and then every weekend we would be on the water. So my parents had a boat. I sailed together with my brother. We had a small boat, and then we sailed kind of on different lakes in Friesland. So that was kind of the weekend. We were both playing soccer, my brother and I, with the local soccer club, and that was kind of what gave us a lot of even confidence, I guess. We were quite okay both, so we were not star players, but we were quite okay, and that in the youth sport is important, I guess. So I was also a good learner, but that's not so important for childs, right? Being good in sports has a bigger image than being smart at school. So I spent a lot of time on that, and then when I grew up and when I went to high school, spend a little bit more time on school, right? To be able to actually, I was a bright kid, I think, but not overly bright, so I still had to work had to put in some work to make it work. I wasn't an overachiever on school, to be honest. Kind of recognize that also in my own son at the moment. So I never wanted to achieve an 8 or a 9 or something like that. Just wanted to get to the next year and do that with kind of the good balance on the effort I put in and the grades I got out of that.
What did inspire you to choose your university? What kind of university did you go to later?
I went to the University of Twente, did computer science. And I think in the end, I guess my dad kind of inspired me. So my dad was the first one. My dad was interested in computers. So quite early, we had this kind of old computer. I thought it was an IBM, but I don't know for sure. But so we had this old computer at home, and you couldn't do that much, right? You just had your green prompt, and you could type a bit, and you could do some stuff. But that kind of he was enthusiastic about that. He kind of brought that enthusiasm to me. Then we got an MSX. That was kind of the first computer my brother and myself had, which of course we mostly used for gaming in the beginning, but also I did some programming, so you could do BASIC on that thing. So I did some small program, and that kind of, I guess, inspired me to at least choose computer science. So I didn't really know what I wanted. It was not a big career choice, but computer science seemed for me like a good choice for me. And in the end, I did, and that was looking back a very good choice for me.
Did you enjoy those years as a student?
I enjoyed my years. So the first year,
rock and roll.
So I lived at the campus in Twente. And I know that I read the stories. The campus was built with kind of the notion that a student could be there in the weekend, walk around the campus area with professors, and then that was kind of what they thought it would be. But of course, it was just you live with 14 students in one big flat. That was just big fun, party every night, and. That was a very good life, to be honest, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot also socially. So living with a group of 14 people, I not only learned as a student computer science and everything around that, and getting ready to work later on. But I think the big thing I learned is living together with a group of 14. How do you do that? So you never like all 14 as good as you would want to, right? So some of the people you really liked, other ones you liked less. How do you deal with that? How do you do the household together? We didn't do that much household, but at least the minimal things you needed to do. How do you do that? So I think I learned a lot from a more social perspective. So I loved that. And then during those years, the last 2 years, I moved from the campus into town. So with 4 friends from that flat. We rented a house more in the center of Enschede, which was good to kind of finally finish off some stuff and have a little bit more time to study. And so I really enjoyed my time there. It was great fun, learned a lot. And
when did you become like a serious student that started to prepare for his career?
Well, I think that happened kind of as of the third year. And that's kind of also maybe even going back further in time. I kind of discovered somewhere in time that I basically liked working. So I didn't like studying that much. I didn't dislike studying, but I never and still don't. I don't like doing things because of the theory of it or something like that. So if we had to do a computer science assignment and we had to build something, get an element through a pipeline from A to B and prove that works, it didn't interest me. I couldn't. Why is that valuable to do? Mm-hmm. And then as of the third year, we could build stuff which I actually could imagine. So one of the things, the first assignment I really liked was we had to build something for a stockbroker. So you had to build a dashboard and I could imagine that. So my dad wasn't a stockbroker, but for hobby, he sometimes had some stock and we talked about that. And this was something I thought, this has value for someone in the outside world. I'm actually building something that someone could use. And that for me was very important, and it still is. I like software, but not for the technical workings of it, which sometimes is hard. So even some of my engineers not always think that's very easy talking with me about software because, good clean code. I don't mind so much about good clean code. I know it's good to have, but for me it's only good if it achieves what it should achieve for our customers. Mm. And that started in my third grade, and then I could do. I had 2 graduation assignments. So, and then I really discovered that I loved that. So I worked at 2 different companies, and the last one was Capgemini. So I graduated at Capgemini. And when I started there, already within a month, my kind of graduation, how do you call that? So a guy that helps you on the inside, he said to me, "Can you also work along the side? So could you do graduation for 4 days a week and then work for 1 day a week? And then we'll pay you for that a little bit more." And I loved that. So I said, please do.
So there was a rolling start. You didn't have to think you didn't have to actually apply for a job. You just...
No, I did apply in the end, which was kind of funny. I had to go to, how was that called? Mercury Urval or something like that. So that was a big recruitment agency at that moment. I don't think they exist anymore. I had to go there, so I was there with a group of, like Capgemini had a lot of people joining. So a big group of people, you had to build a resume. Well, I didn't have a resume, so that was quite short. And then we had all these kind of interviews. And then by the end, this guy said to me that I was kind of stubborn and had a big opinion on things. And so I even said to him, well, did it take a whole day to discover that? I could have told you in the beginning. So, but I loved the experience. I think, to be honest, my manager gave me that for the experience. I think even if they would have said don't hire him, he would have still hired me. But I think it was him giving it to me, like, okay, this is good for you. Do the experience, go there, go through the process that also all the other people has to go through. But I had a rolling start. I could start quite easily. And even I created my own job because my graduation assignment was about... So I worked at Capgemini at the department that built SDW. I don't know how old you are, if you still know that.
I'm 43. How old are you?
I'm 50. So you could have known that still maybe, but that was a case tool which you could use to draw diagrams and to build a whole repository around that. Okay. So you could draw entity relationship diagrams, data flow diagrams, but also organizational diagrams. They were big in that time, and they were kind of changing the department a bit. So one of the people in my committee was Ron Toledo, still the CTO, one of the CTOs of Capgemini. Big guy now, but already a big guy in that time. And he just created the book Iterative Application Development. So he was kind of, I think in the Netherlands, one of the first ones that introduced Agile before it was called Agile. And I was hired as a graduation assignment to see how do they build SDW. So SDW was a package-based solution. So in this time we would call it a SaaS solution, I guess. But in that time it was still printed on a CD and then shipped out, right? So, and I was kind of there to kind of analyze, does this really work? So they had separate teams all working kind of in an iterative way, but they really struggled to deliver the product in time, to get it out at the right quality level. So I was there to kind of look at other companies, look at industry standards, look at what can we learn from even the real industry, right? So how do you build a chair? How do you build a car? What can we learn from that? and then do a proposal how to improve the internal process. And that was a great assignment because it gave me a flying start in my career at Capgemini, but I still use that theory for years to come, maybe even today. So it kind of gave me a head start in everything I've done afterwards. And I could join straight away because one of my advices was that they needed someone to do problem management. So they got a lot of tickets in from the outside world. So they had a lot of customers. We had a lot of customers at that time. And all these customers had things they wanted improved on the product. So, and the process of getting these issues in, getting these problems in, and then having a good process, bringing that into the planning, and then analyzing that, and then putting it really into work for these customers. We didn't really coordinate that very well. And one of my proposals was, you need a problem manager that owns that process, that has a good overview of all the wishes of customers coming in, that talks to the different teams. We didn't have product managers at that moment. We didn't call them that way, but we had, right? Someone was in the lead of the team. You could talk to them. So I was assigned to, okay, if you think that's a good idea, come on board and do that yourself. And that was the first thing I did. I was a problem management, even on the old e-tail way. So kind of the old-fashioned way of doing that, and I've learned that was not the best way, but yeah, it really gave me a head start in everything I did afterwards.
And then you stayed there for 11 years?
Yeah, I worked there a long time. So I worked at Capgemini for 11 years. So I was, if you would call it, if it was a soccer team, I was from the youth, right? So I started there very young, and that really gave me a head start, and that gave me a lot of opportunities. I knew a lot of people with a lot of good influence within the company that helped me a lot also to switch roles internally. So Capgemini was that moment and still is a very big company with, it has its advantages in the beginning of your career. If you have a big company, you can do a lot of different things there, right? So I had a lot of opportunities there. And I worked there a long time. To be honest, in the end, I was a bit stuck for my feeling, and it maybe kind of connects back to one of your beginning dilemmas. I love doing projects with small teams. So my best projects I did there, I was kind of a technical project leader at the end. And what I loved is doing very complex stuff or stuff that was hard for customers and doing that with a small group of people. I never liked these big projects. I liked small project, like 10 to 15 people, and do something very valuable for a customer, which is quite hard to do. But then in the end, I came into the problem that within Capgemini, if you wanted to grow as a project lead, you needed to be certified, you need to do bigger project, but then you were doing a big project for a bank. So I could do a project for the ABN AMRO, but then, for my opinion, I was doing spreadsheet management. So then you would have a team of maybe 50 to 100 people. You would have to manage that, have to manage the delivery. But I love being close to the solutions we build, being close to the software, close to the technical people, and empowering them.
So you decided to move on?
Yeah, then my last customer from Capgemini was bol.com.
Oh, okay.
With big help from my manager at that moment, Rob Ista was my manager at that moment within Capgemini. A really great guy, really technical guy. He knew me quite well, and he knew what I was looking for. He knew also Daniel Ropers very well, so he was the CEO at that moment of bol.com. And when I came available from my last project, I know that Rob called Daniel and he said, I have a great guy available. I don't know if you have an opening, but if not, please create an opening. This guy can really help you forward. And then I started there together with Ronald, who still works there, a good friend of mine. Yeah, and we started there, and we got the assignment to create the new webshop. So when I came in, bol.com was running on Intershop, and bol.com grew so big that the product they used, so Intershop, they didn't know if it would still work. Mm-hmm. So actually they said to bol.com, you're doing numbers through this platform that we never scaled it for, we never tested it for. If it works, that's fine. And if it doesn't work, we want to help you, right? We will still support you. But we cannot guarantee that what you are doing now.
What year was this when you joined?
2007, I think, from the top of my head.
And how big were they back then in terms of people? And
when I came on board, bol.com was... I started the 1st of Jan, and bol.com ended the year with 100 people the year before. Okay. And they also ended with 100 million. Oh. So that was when I came in, that was a very, very big achievement. They actually earned, also learned their... work hard, play hard. Learned that a lot at bol.com. When I came in, the whole company went on a trip to New York because that was the promise from the board of directors to the team. If we make this 100 million, then we're going to do something very memorable. And then they went with the whole company. I couldn't join. I was external. So unfortunately, I know all the stories. I know all the people that went because, afterwards I joined the company, but I wasn't part of that trip. But that trip was great. I saw the energy it brought already months before. I saw the energy it brought when they went there. I saw all the picture. Yeah, I think if I learned one thing there, if you do great things, you also should reward the people and do memorable things together again. So to memorize that.
But this was like a huge task, right? They gave you because you had to build a web shop that was never built before. This was like a skill that was probably not known in the Netherlands before. And then Feike thinks, sure,
yeah,
I'll join.
And that's of course what happened, right? So I joined together with Ronald. We were assigned first of all to do to choose the right solution. So Bal.com said, okay, if Intershop is not the way we implement it, they couldn't even upgrade it. So they said, let's look at the market and let's look what products are out there that we could use. In the end, we chose an ATG, which at that moment was one of the leading platforms. And then we had to implement that. And then, you already phrased it quite nicely. That was for Bal.com a journey and a project of a size that Bal.com never did before. And also for me, I was an experienced technical project manager, but always within bigger companies, which already had more capacity, more resources. I worked a lot for insurance companies, for banks. And then I started here, and it was literally pathfinding. So we had to rebuild Bal.com in a new platform. Yeah, we had a number of issues. Rebuilding it was hard because no one actually knew what it did. So Bal.com started, as you might know, as Bal.com literally means Bertelmans online, if I'm correct. So Bal.com was from Bertelmans, a big publisher from Germany, which had a vision, which was the same vision as Amazon, to start a worldwide online platform. In the end, they didn't succeed. So after one of the internet bubble bursted, they sold out Bal.com. Then Daniel Ropers took the lead to by the Dutch part of Bal.com, and he also, which I think was a very strategic move of him, he also bought the Bal.com name. So when he bought, so he didn't buy it himself, right? So he looked for people to finance that, but he also then wanted to have the name Bal.com. They succeeded, and then in the end, they got Intershop from Bertelmans, and they said, we were building a new website. Here is the prototype. It's built on Intershop and on Oracle. Here you have all the software and the licenses. Go work with it. That's how Bal.com started in the Netherlands. And then, of course, the first years, it was way before I was there. So the first years, of course, was all about making the company a healthy, profitable company, not building a very scalable architecture. Of course, that's not the first thing you do, right? Yeah. So when I came there, we had to rebuild something which even wasn't documented. So we kind of stumbled upon, during the project a few times, did you also build this? And then we thought, no, what's that? We forgot to tell. This is also a piece of the software. So we had to literally find out what the webshop did. And there were 2 or 3 experts there that knew the most, but there was no one that knew everything. So there were experts on order management, there were experts on product management, experts on the webshop and the journey of the webshop, but there were no experts that knew everything. So we had to find out a lot. And then also we were still building the IT department. We were scaling the IT department. I think when I came on board, the internal IT was kind of maybe a bit disappointed, and some people maybe even a bit mad at me. Why don't we just build it from scratch ourselves? Which I'm still very happy that we didn't do that, because I think we couldn't have done that at that moment. But I did see that we had a great group of people, and we made that group of people even bigger. So as of when we've implemented ATG in the end, so that project slipped a bit. If you want to know a little bit more, please read the book Geheim van Bol.com. And in English, I think it's called Reinventing Shopping. So that's a book that Michel Schaefer, the old CMO, has written. And this also describes this project. But in the end, when we had it implemented, we also thought we should build towards an IT department that is really owning all the pieces of the software. And we shouldn't be dependent on vendors for the strategic assets of the company. So we thought about ways to avoid becoming dependent of big vendors, and what do we need for that? And that doesn't mean that Bal.com had the vision we never buy anything, but Bal.com did have the vision if something becomes a strategic asset, shouldn't we own the software ourselves? Shouldn't we have so much influence on that piece of the stack and that piece of the landscape that we can change anything we want? And that kind of became the new way of working. So that meant that sometimes we bought software to start with something. So forecasting is a nice example. When we started doing forecasting better, we bought the best package in the market at that moment. But we also thought, let's integrate it in a way that if we want to replace it in the future because we think we can do a better job, we should be able to replace it. So we wrapped everything in APIs. We made everything loosely coupled to each other. So we kind of, when I came on board, we had 5 big monoliths. And one of the biggest things I'm proud of, what we changed the landscape from 5 big monoliths into a more microservice architecture of loosely coupled services that could be easily changed. So a team owned a couple of services, and if we would want to replace a service, that was something the team could do. And as long as we kept the interfaces the same, then the outside world wouldn't have a problem with that, and the inside world working on that could replace it. And that sounds great in theory. In practice, that's very, very hard. I learned also the hard way that if you make services too small, then that whole theory doesn't work anymore, right? So a monolith is not a bad thing. A monolith has a lot of things which are easy, which are practically easy for software development, but it also has a lot of downsides. And one of the things is scaling an organization. If you want to scale, then you also need the opportunity for people to work independently from each other on a piece of the software. And if you have one big monolith, then that's very hard. If you release the monolith and it breaks and you had multiple teams working on it, then it takes a long time to figure out what's broken, who broke it, and not to blame people. I don't believe in blame, but to figure out how can we fix it again.
How much time did it take you from the moment that you joined Bol.com to actually rebuild the webshop and launch it? And was it like one big bang launch, or was it like phased in somehow?
No, it was one big bang, which looking back was crazy. Looking back, it wasn't even that long. I think it took us a little less than 2 years, maybe 1.5 years, or maybe a bit more. So somewhere between 1.5 and 2 years to actually do the selection, do the negotiation, buy it, rebuild it, and launching it, which took way more time than my first planning. So I was a little bit on the positive side. But I think in hindsight, I'm still very proud of the speed we had on that, because it was a very big thing. We did Big Bang, which nowadays couldn't be done anymore. At that moment, keep in mind that at that moment, although Bol.com was the biggest online store, downtime was still something that happened. We still did releases with downtime. If we had downtime, we wouldn't end up at teletext page 101, which happened a lot later on. If we would have downtime, we would end up in the press, right? But that wasn't at that moment. But we did go live Big Bang. We switched all the customers. We did do thorough testing. So one of the greatest moments at Bol.com, which still look back for me as one of the moments that gave me the most of the energy I ever had there. We did what we called the 1,000 order test. So we switched all the traffic to the new platform on a Saturday to capture 1,000 orders. And then we would switch every customer back again, and we would have those 1,000 orders flow to the new system and see how these orders would end up. Does it really work? Do they end up correctly in the order management system? Does the connection with Ideal work on the finance side? So all these kind of things. And that was a magical moment. That was for a group of people. It was late at night and we found an issue, unfortunately. We couldn't test anymore. We all had to go home on a Saturday night. We were full of adrenaline. I didn't want to go home. There was one wise guy at that moment, Huub Vermeulen, who later became he at that moment was the logistical director within Bol.com, and he became the CEO later on. He was the only guy that was still thinking rationally, and he said, we're not going to switch it on now. We have to wait until tomorrow morning, Sunday, 9 o'clock, before we capture 1,000 orders anyhow. We go home now all together, get a good night's sleep again, be back here tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and then we're going to switch the platform. But we had worked all day. We were there 9 o'clock on a Saturday. We were planning to switch somewhere in the afternoon. We found bugs, we fixed them. Everyone stayed there, and then everyone was a bit disappointed. Some people were really mad. Why couldn't you think about this earlier? But then still, we came back on a Sunday. Everyone was fresh again. We switched on, and then, the magic happened. Everyone was looking at it. It started working. A lot of things didn't work, to be honest. We still needed, I think after the test, we still needed 2 to 4 weeks to fix the problems we discovered. And then we switched it for real, which was way easier. If we wouldn't have done this test, that would have been crazy. But this test was really magic. And then that happened later on again in the career when we switched data center. So that was one of the other biggest projects I did. We run the data center outside with Schuberg Philips for a long time at bol.com, which was a great period because they were a very professional company. And because of them, we got way better. We got way more professional on the infrastructure layer. But in the end, we also there saw that for us, it was strategic that we could move faster on the infrastructure. So the infrastructure became part of changing stuff and of agile development. So, and that's sometimes hard if you have an outsourcing company that wants to stabilize and keep everything very stable, which they were very good at. But if you want to change stuff, take a little bit of risk on there and have faster movements, that in the end didn't connect. If you want to move fast, if you want to be agile, you also should own the infrastructure. And then we insourced the whole data center. Yeah. So we had to switch all the systems from their data center to our data center. That again was a big project. That again took about, I think, 1.5 years. And then again, we did not 1,000 order tests, but we did a dry run. So we switched the whole platform over on Friday night. So we started Friday, we switched it over during the night. Then we had it run on Saturday, and then we switched back. And then we kind of did the same, kind of analyze anything that happened. Was it good enough? Did we run into problems? Does all the operational procedures work? And then there was again magic, and this magic felt even bigger. We had, I don't know how many, but maybe like 50 people being part of the test. That started 4 o'clock at night, I think. So those people came to the office in Utrecht at 4 o'clock. All went to the where we normally would eat, right? So to the canteen. And then we were behind schedules. We had a very, very big book of stuff we were doing. So we did a dry run. 2 good friends of mine were in the lead of that project. So I was part of that project, but not in the lead. So I was kind of I was connected from the management team. I kind of had a quality role and also helping out things that needed a boost. And then we did that, and we were behind for an hour. And then you could imagine, hey, you were there, you start at 4 o'clock, you come into the office, and the first thing you hear, we're behind for an hour, right? You have to wait for an hour. So we thought, maybe they get a little bit mad, they don't like that. Everyone was full of adrenaline. The vibe alone already, and all the people together, they were playing cards, they were just waiting their turn, and then everyone did their piece of the puzzle. We learned a lot from the dry run, and also we learned how to do the dry run. And a good friend of mine, Frederica, was in the lead of that process. So how do we actually perform the dry run itself? And then we came up with magical, practical improvements. So one of the things, there were people sleeping in the office, and we discovered that the big room, so we slept in the basement. We had a big basement in that office with a lot of different rooms where people could sleep. We discovered it only had one light switch. We didn't check that up front. And we had different turns of people going to sleep.
Oh, wow.
So that was a problem. So people went to sleep, turned out the light bulb, and then they went, and then the other one woke up again. What are you doing? I'm sleeping. And then we never thought of this one. There's only one light switch in this whole thing, and it just opens up all the lights here, so that doesn't work. And then she came up with the most practical solution you could think of. We all got a headlight, like you would use when you would do a cave walk or whatever. So that was the simple solution. We buy there might be 20 people that were sleeping there. We get 20 headlights, and you're not allowed. So we put duct tape on the light switch. No one was allowed to switch the lights anymore. You get a head bulb. You know which room you're sleeping in. Put on your head bulb your light bulb when you're still upstairs, and then walk downstairs, go to your room, and go to sleep. And that was kind of the best solution for that problem. Nothing complicated, nothing complex, just a simple solution. And the other thing was that the technical people, they needed rest. They needed to think clearly, right? We did a very big change. We changed the whole infrastructure, which would still mean we would run into problems. So we discovered issues that needed analysis. And the technical people needed room to think. They needed peace and quiet. And when we did the dry run, we had one wing, but it had 2 big wings with a corner in the middle. And then everyone was just walking around. And the people testing and the business people there were very excited, full of adrenaline. So everyone was very cheerful and everyone was very loud. And then by the end of the dry run, the technical people said, for us, it doesn't work. So if someone finds an issue, I need peace and quiet to analyze it and to figure out what's going on. And I don't like then someone standing next to me being full of adrenaline, shouting in my ear, and then although it's meant very positively, it doesn't work. And then we thought again, how can we do that? Because we did like the fact that everyone was on one floor, because it made the lines very short, and that's what we needed. And then we used how do you call it in English? So this police lint, so this red and white tape, and in the corner of that office, so it had 2 wings, one on the east side and one on the north side, and we just had police lint in between, and we said no one is allowed to cross this, and we had 3 or 4 people that were allowed to go from one side to the other, and they were the ones bringing the messages. So if we tested something and we thought we'd found something which might be an issue we need to analyze, there were 4 people that were allowed to understand what we saw, go to the technical guys, and then form a team of technical people to analyze that.
Wow.
And it worked like a charm. And within a day, we switched the whole platform. So we started at a Friday night at around 8. So we first had dinner all there, and then we started with a big. Yeah, we had a big book. We had a big scenario of all the steps we needed to take, and then in the end, we switched everything over.
It really surprises me how much of a detailed memory you have to an event that happened like almost, I think, longer than 15 years ago. I guess.
Yeah, it
really shows how
this was
impactful this task or this period was for you. I mean, if I have to think about my memories 15 years ago, I have no clue what I was doing. So
so these bigger projects. So I don't know everything, right? But these big projects, which for me really made a difference for the company, but also made a difference for me personally. Yeah, I really remember. And this project for me is special because at that moment, I still go out to dinner like 2-3 times a year with 4 people, with 3 good friends of mine from bol.com. And that friendship, we already had that friendship a bit, but this project really created that friendship. Yeah. And those are friends for life. So that were the ones we were doing that project with. And
how did you feel when you were doing this project? Were you like nervous, or were you like super sure that you would totally nail it?
Yeah, we were. How do you call it? We were psyched. We were totally confident that we could nail it. And I felt that confident first switching back to the ATG implementation, which was my biggest project I ever done at that moment in time, which also was the most stressful project I ever did, to be honest. We went live in August. When it was January that year, I think that's the first time in my life, and luckily the only time that I really felt stress and the consequences of stress. I couldn't sleep at night. I lay awake at night. I was really worried that I knew that if we wouldn't make it working, that could just be the bankruptcy of bol.com. Yeah. So it was not just a small project. I was used to doing big projects at banks, but then still, it was not that if one project would fail, the whole bank would fail, right? But this one was, if this fails, the company could go bankrupt. If the other project doesn't work, if Intershop couldn't handle the load anymore and this one wasn't finished, then what's going to happen? So I really felt stressed out during that period. But then when we finally kind of got to the conclusion, we're not going to make it. We opened up. We were very honest to that. I had great conversations with the board of directors at that moment. And of course, they didn't like the message, but they were really supportive in fixing it. Mm-hmm. And then as of that moment, and that happened around May, when we really, really said, we're not going to make it. We're gonna reset the project for the last task we need to do. And of that moment, I was confident that we would make it. There was no doubt in my mind that we would make the project. And then if people said, but when do we end and what still needs to be done exactly? I didn't know. But I was confident that we would make it. And the same happened later on with this data center project. We were so confident that we had the greatest engineers. We hired a lot of new infrastructure engineers. So bol.com has one of the greatest infrastructure teams I ever saw. We had great software engineers. We had the best preparation you could have on this project. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's gonna be a success.
How did you celebrate that?
Did
you?
Yeah,
or
we
did. You just go back to work the next day?
No, we did. And to be honest, we celebrated so much at bol.com that I cannot remember every celebration. But the small celebration we had in the end is I went out to dinner with 2 of the 3 friends I just mentioned. We were still so full of adrenaline, even if it was a Saturday. we didn't want to go home yet. We were so filled with joy of the success of the day. So the first celebration was we went out to dinner with a very small group. I brought 2 of my friends home. I was by car. The other ones were by, I think, public transportation. So, we just wanted to make the moment as long as we could make it. And then we celebrated afterwards. And I can't remember which party it was. But we had a good culture of celebration. So the New York trip, like I said, I wasn't part of that. But that's still, for the people that were there, they remember that forever. That's still being talked about. The other very big celebration at Bol.com, which will be known forever by the people working, was that we went to Sicily with the whole company when we hit the 1 billion.
Oh, wow.
So we had the arrangement already after the 100 million, that once 1 billion would be reached, we would do something so memorable again that everyone would remember that.
And do they still remember Bol.com in Sicily as well?
Well, that might be, but I don't think so, because we rented a very old and I guess cheap, but it wasn't so cheap because we were a lot of people, of course. But we rented a very old, vacancy park. Which had his best. I wouldn't go there if I was you, right?
Yeah.
It was fun because we were all there. It had rooms you could sleep in. We didn't need so much. It had some swimming pools. It was on the Mediterranean Sea, so we had big fun there. But we weren't in a village that people. But it was a lifetime experience. We flew in with 7 to 8 different planes. We flew into there. It's hard to land in Sicily. I didn't know that, but it has 2 airports at the end of the island. It's always windy, so it's quite hard to put a plane on the ground. And we had 2 or 3 planes that had difficulty. I was in a plane that actually didn't land correctly the first time, and it had to land again. So it circled around and it landed again. But one of the pilots had the same problem, and he didn't dare to land again, but he landed on the other end of the island. And of course, that looks quite nearby from the air, right? How big can Sicily be? But those colleagues landed like a few hundred kilometers away of, I don't know how far away, but a long time away from where we actually were. And they landed there and they had nothing, right? They were just a big group of people. So they had to figure out how to rent a bus to get to where they needed to go. And that was, again, they were cheered as heroes when they finally come in. They lost a day, but they still talk about that. That was a big experience also for them. They landed on the wrong end of the island.
Wow.
Yeah, so Bol.com was very good. I think still is very good. I don't work there, but I still love the company and I come there a lot still. It's a company that has a very good balance between work hard, but if you worked hard, you also have the right to celebrate. And like you said before, these memories, I think, and that goes for me with Bol.com, but I think that goes for everyone. For me, memories are made, also if I look back at Camp Gemini times, is when you do something hard and complex with a small group of people and you're very proud in the end that you made it work and that you feel like you've done something which for you was changing the world, which for you was the first time that you achieved that something and you really, really had a big achievement. And that's what, for me, creates memories. And that's also what creates relationships. I've seen a lot of, if I look at my own friendships, but also from people I know from Bol.com, I know groups of people that build friendships for life.
Amazing.
And that's mostly starting at something hard, at a big project, and not at smooth projects, right? Smooth projects are, well, sometimes very nice that the project goes smooth, but it creates relationships if you have to work hard together. And maybe sometimes also be a bit mad at each other and kind of, it's like a good sports team, right? If you're in the field, you're not just saying, hey, Leopold, why did you do this or why did you do that? Please try better next time. No, if it's on the edge, then you would talk differently to each other and you would respect each other to do that and then speed up. And that's what I love with working with people, that if you can create the confidence that you can even get mad at each other because it's needed at that moment in time to progress faster, that's fine. As long as you do it respectfully and make each other better. And that's the goal, getting to the end goal.
You stayed around at Bol.com for 15 years, which is an amazing long time. And as I can hear, you had a great opportunity there also to grow. And before we bridge to your current role at Channel Engine, Bol.com was changed from like a single web shop actually to an open marketplace.
Yeah.
What was your role there?
So when we did that, I was head of architecture from IT. And Daniel Ropes, so the CEO at that moment, he went on a study trip to the US. And to be honest, I would have to look up the year. So I don't know from the top of my head. But when we started that, and I think that's like 10 years ago at the moment, he went there and he did a trip. He went to Google, he went to eBay, he went to some other companies. And that really opened his eyes that e-commerce in the future will change and will be dominated by marketplaces. So Daniel was a very, very intelligent man and a very bright man with a very big vision. So he was there and he saw the future. He saw this is also what's going to happen in Europe. And how did e-commerce work? First things happened in the US, then it happened in the UK, and then it happened in Europe mainland. That was kind of what happened all along. And he came back from that trip. And Daniel is a very enthusiastic guy, and he was overly enthusiastic about this one. But also he was a bit worried. We need to do this now. We need to move fast. We don't have time to take a year or 1.5 years to do this, because if we are not the first ones at the party, then we're too late. And I don't know in hindsight if that was true or not. That's in hindsight, everything's different or difficult to judge. But I do know that really inspired us as an IT department, but also me in my role, to think along with him and like, okay, if time is of the essence, then time is a requirement. Time is not just something that happens. No, time is a requirement on this project. So how can we make this as fast as we can? And then we thought out of the idea, and he already started with that himself, right? It was not like my brain was very big on this one, but we already had an application for secondhand books. And if you look at it conceptually, selling a secondhand book by an individual is kind of the same process as selling products by companies which are not bol.com itself, but you open up your gates for them to do that, right? So, we kind of created a plan how to upgrade that application to become the first version of the marketplace backend. And because time was of the essence, we created a kind of a good enough design to start with. So we kind of trained the teams. We freed up teams for that. So we didn't have any teams working on this, right? So the biggest problem in the beginning was already we had a group of teams working on the bol.com landscape. And doesn't matter how big you grow, you always have the feeling that resources are scarce, right? You always have not enough people to do everything you want. So the same at bol.com. So the first big hurdle was, do we really prioritize this so big from the whole company that we also agree that we're gonna change the team structures and we're gonna free up people to work on this? Well, that was the first thing. So we did that. So and of course the CEO wanting this helps, but it wasn't enough, right? You also need the buy-in of the rest of the company. So the first thing we did is kind of make a design and in parallel see what people would we need to implement this design. And then we looked at what people do we really need if time is of the essence. And if time is of the essence, you need entrepreneurial engineers. You need engineers that don't think, what could go wrong if we do it this way? You need the people that kind of think, how hard can this be? And of course it's hard, but you need kind of that mindset. So we opened up a group of people that we thought had the knowledge, had the expertise of the system we needed to change, but also had the mindset and the kind of drive to do this within the time frame we had. And then we started with it. And I think we created the first version of the marketplace in 3 to 4 months. Wow. So I think we started somewhere in the beginning of the year. We might have started building in March. I think we started kind of thinking about it and then freeing up people, making scenarios for that in January. We started the team, I think, somewhere in March. And then I think we launched halfway the year.
Was it an instant success? Did people understood it?
Yeah, I think that depends on who you ask. I think from a marketing perspective, it was an instant success. We made a big impression in the press. And that already, even for an engineer, there were proud moments, right? You launch something and it's all over the news and everyone talks about it. And so that was an instant success. From a technical perspective, I think it was also a success in the sense that the MVP, the minimal viable product we started with was good enough to really start with. So sometimes MVPs are not good enough, right? They're not MVPs. They're MPs. They're minimal products, but not viable to really start with. We didn't have that problem, but what we did underestimate a bit, or maybe we didn't, but what we really had to find out, how does this work? And that wasn't an instant success. So we started off, we thought we're going to do this with kind of bigger retail brands. That was the first. So I remember one of the launching companies was Scheer en Foppen. I don't know if they even exist anymore. So they were an electronics chain, right? They were reasonably big in the Netherlands. So we looked kind of at the top of the mid-market to start with. But then we discovered that didn't work so well at all. Those companies had a hard time doing e-commerce. They hadn't discovered themselves yet how to do e-commerce, right? And I can come back to my channel engine time where we have sometimes the same kind of challenge still. And then we saw that it didn't work as good as we would want it. It worked. So we saw the model worked. We saw that these companies weren't bringing the change we wanted, and we really struggled with customer experience. And that still is a very valuable lesson also for me now working at Channel Engine. So if you do marketplace sales, if you sell on a marketplace, then the biggest challenge for the marketplace itself is that a customer that buys on a marketplace still considers the marketplace to be the owner of the, well, let's call it technically the transaction, but be the owner of the customer experience, right? So what happened a lot in the beginning years of bol.com when we had the marketplace, you would buy something. Let's say you would buy, an amplifier at Scheer en Foppen. And then in the end, Scheer en Foppen doesn't deliver in time because they were still struggling with their logistics, that they were finding it out, right? It was not unintentional. It was unintentionally, right? It was not the intention not to do a good job, but they were still discovering how to do that. And then it would be delivered maybe 1 or 2 days later at your place. But all our customers were used from bol.com that one of the things bol.com has always been very good in is logistics. You buy today, you get it tomorrow. That was kind of introduced by bol.com. But that meant that when we opened up the marketplace, every customer expected this same service level from all our sellers. And not all the sellers were able to do that. And not all the sellers could afford to do that because that's an expensive operation. And e-commerce is hard because it has low margin. So you need to do it well. So managing customer expectations and thereby managing also bol.com's own brand name in the market. That was, I think, the thing we underestimated the most. Right. And we had to create what we didn't have in the beginning, and we created afterwards. And all the marketplaces have that now in the meantime. And all the people selling on marketplaces have to deal with that. There is something that's around reputation management and quality management. So all the marketplaces have something that says, hey, Leopold, if you sell on our platform and you promise to deliver it in 2 days, we will actually check if you did so. And if you don't, we will somehow keep track of that. And then if you do that too many times in a row, you get a strike. And if you get multiple strikes in a row, we'll put you on suspension for a while. And that's not to annoy a seller, but that's to safeguard the reputation of the platform, which in the end is good for sellers again, right? A marketplace only has value for a seller if a marketplace has a good reputation for a customer. So a customer needs to come to a marketplace to buy stuff and needs to have a very, very good feeling about that marketplace. And then for you as a seller, it's a very important marketplace to be at. But it also means that as a seller, you have a big role in keeping that image of the marketplace good for the customer. So you need to be on top of the game. And if you promise a delivery time of 2 days, you need to deliver in 2 days. If you cannot make that, you should put it on 3 or 4 days. And of course, the problem with that is that the longer you make your delivery time, the less sales you will have. So we know for a fact that as faster you can deliver, the more sales you will get. So it's always kind of the balance you need to find between getting as much sales as you can, but still delivering it at the quality level that you can get. And we had to learn that as bol.com. We had to learn how to build systems for that. We had to create whole new departments. So bol.com now has a very big department, and all these platforms have around quality management, safeguarding the position of the customer on the platform. So also be kind of the judge if a seller does something wrong, but also the other way around. So if a customer does something wrong and the seller did a good job, but still the customer complains, how do you deal with that, right? So a marketplace has a big role to play there. Yeah. We didn't have that.
Feike, I'm going to cut you off. I think you should really write your own memories about your years at Bol.com. Yeah. It's super interesting. I think you can talk about this for hours.
Yeah, that's true.
But I also would like to talk about your current position at Channel Engine.
Yeah.
So you stayed there for 15 years. That was your second job. So after 26 years in your career, you choose your third job, right? So what was your motivation behind switching to Channel Engine?
Yeah, so maybe to start, actually it was 25 before my friends say after hearing this. So I worked 11 years at Capgemini, but my last year Capgemini was my first year at Bol.com because they hired me from Capgemini, right? So yeah, I worked 25 years with two companies, which I think is quite loyal.
Very.
Yeah, and to be honest, I never thought about that up front, right? It's not like you think about, hey, am I a loyal person or not? So this kind of happens. And I did look back a few times, like, why did I do that? And to be honest, yeah, I did that because I just still love my job at both ends. And that's why I stayed, right? So I got at both companies always the opportunity to do the work I liked, to kind of keep innovating my work, to work with people that really inspired me, both managers of me, but also the teams I worked with. And that was also one of the biggest reasons to switch in the end and to go to Channel Engine. So I didn't switch because I didn't like Bol.com anymore. I still love Bol.com. But I did see that the fit between me and Bol.com wasn't as good as it was in the beginning years. And that's not because Bol.com wasn't good anymore or that I wasn't good anymore, but Bol.com grew, and a growing company changes. I grew as a person, as a professional, and I changed. And I kind of somewhere, took the decision that I think I'm very good at helping a company grow, helping a company scale, and that should be a company that has a technical challenge. I'm a guy that likes to work with product and tech. I worked on the business side for a while, for 2.5 years with Bol.com, and I'm very, very grateful for everyone that gave me that opportunity. I think I made a difference there, but I also kind of discovered I'm a technical guy. I need to be close to technical people. I need to be close. I'm connected to the product, but also from a technical angle. And then I thought, Bol.com grew so big that it didn't give me a good feeling anymore every day. And not because the company wasn't good or the people I worked with wasn't good, but because what I wanted to achieve, like work with a small group of people, make that group of people better every day, work hard, play hard, that kind of things, that's harder in a bigger company. But I did love e-commerce and I did love marketplaces. And that was the other thing. Working within a marketplace is sometimes a bit hard, because if you really, really start understanding how the marketplace works from the outside world, so I was always in connection with sellers. I've supported a lot of sellers through the years, I still do, and I love the outside game. I love e-commerce. And then I thought, why not switch to a company that's doing that? So why not start working for the companies I already know? I was heading up the API within Bol.com for a while, so the retailer API. So I was in connection with companies within the Netherlands that build their software against the API of Bol.com. And one of those companies was Channel Engine. And Channel Engine for me had the perfect combination of needing someone, I think, that my profile would really fit, right? So they were looking to scale. They were looking for a leader on the product and tech level that could help the company grow the department within product and tech. They were looking for someone with love for product and with love for e-commerce. And then after two good conversations with Jorrit, also the connection between me and Jorrit, and for me that's very important. Like I said before, I like working with people, but it also means I need to somehow connect to the people. I need to like to work with and for someone, right? That's for me, it's important. You work a lot of time in your life, so it better be worthwhile. And we had, formally it were, how do you call it? I applied, right? So formally it was an application conversation, but it was just a very, very nice conversation about e-commerce. And Jorrit and I clicked very well. And I also think that I already saw that quite soon, that we could help each other. Jorrit is a visionary guy, so he remembered me already in the first conversation a bit from like guys like Daniel Ropers, Michel Schaefer, so the big visionaries of Bol.com. And I think I'm not a visionary guy, but I can understand visions, and I can kind of translate visions into, okay, what do we really actually need to do to make this dream work? What do we need to change in the current state of the software, the current state of the department, the current state of the company to get from today to the dream? And I think that's where that's where my power lies, and I think also that's where Jorrit and I are a very, very good combination. So,
what is the biggest difference for you right now with working with, let's say, a visionary, strong founder, and before you were actually part, in the end, of a pretty big corporate organization with a board of directors and everything? So, what changed for you the most?
Yeah, so for me, it changed back to the beginning years of Bol.com. So when I joined Bol.com, although it wasn't owned by, so the company was owned by investors, right? It wasn't owned by the board of directors at that moment, but the board of directors, like Daniel, always steered the company as if it was his own company. So for me, he was the founder, right? And the three guys that started it, Daniel, Michel, and Huub, for me were the founders of Bol.com, and it always felt that way. And it's great to work for founders, and I have the same feeling again with Daniel, with Jorrit. So it's a blessing to still have the founder on board, because for me, Jorrit is Channel Engine. So Jorrit is the product, and that's very inspirational. That's inspirational for me, but it's also inspirational for the rest of the company. If Jorrit does a speech on our monthly meetings for the whole company, it's not just a speech of a CEO that understands the vision of the company and that was hired to bring the company to the next step. It's the guy that started the company with a vision and that's still building to reach that dream of his vision. And I love that. I love to work for people and work with people that actually have a dream, that can explain their dream, that the dream is a good combination of data-drivenness and entrepreneurial, intuitive kind of vision, right? So not everything has to be data-driven, but of course, in the end, you need to prove that it works. And I love that. And that was, to be honest, also one of the things I missed at the end at Bol.com. So I still loved all the people that worked there, but at the end, we got more, like you said, into an enterprise corporate company that had to hit the numbers. Instead of, in the beginning years, we were inventing e-commerce. We didn't care for numbers, or at least I didn't care for numbers, right? We know we had to hit the numbers, but in the end, we hit, we create a platform. That was the dream. Yeah. And then, of course, we wanted to earn money with that. But the big dream was we create a platform, and then we have sellers, and we connect sellers on it. And that seller is going to be very, very happy and can build a living on top of our platform. And that feeling I have again with Jorrit. Of course, we want Channel Engine to become the biggest in the world and the most successful. And that would mean that also financially, it's going to be a good company, right? We have investors, so that investors also need to earn back their investment. But for us, the finance part is the fuel to build a dream. And if we reach the dream, then the finance part wouldn't be an issue.
What is the dream right now? What is Jorrit's dream? And is it already your dream as well?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, it became my dream very, very fast. So the dream, to be honest, would be that any kind of channel all around the world that you can do transactional e-commerce, you can use Channel Engine to connect to that. So the dream is connect once, sell everywhere. So you connect your backend systems to Channel Engine. So you connect your PIM system to us. You connect your order management system to us. You connect your pricing system, any kind of system you have as your core systems. We will kind of ingest your data, and we will give you the tools to transform the data in a way that you can sell on any platform all around the world.
For the listeners who are not so much into e-commerce and to really want to understand, like, what does Channel Engine deliver, let's say today, can you just give like a practical example of one of your clients and how they are using Channel Engine today? Yeah,
so maybe to keep it very close to home, I'm helping myself a customer, which is relatively small, but for me, it's a good way to really understand what the product does, right? Because this is a great question, right? We can talk about the product, but to understand is also using it. They started at Bol.com, so there's a lot of local sellers that started on Bol.com, which means they upload their products on Bol.com, they upload their prices, Bol.com sells it, they get the orders in, they fulfill the orders, right? And then they think, okay, I want to have more sales, so let's open it up within the whole of Europe. And then what you can do is connect all those products. Instead of connecting them straight away to Bol.com, you connect them to us, you connect your products to us, your prices, and then you can configure also to sell on Amazon. Yep. So you create mappings to Amazon. So let's say, I don't know, you sell furniture or something like that. You could choose the category on Amazon. So you choose the category that you want to sell your products in. You map your attributes that Amazon wants you to fill on their product page, and then you can list those products. And then you can, if you wanna fight for the buy box. So if you want to be the one that is really the one that a customer buys if they hit the button. So they say, hey, put this into the basket. You want to be there, right? That's the spot to be.
Yep.
Then that means that you might want to do repricing. So you can use our system to say, hey, within these boundaries, this is the minimal price. Otherwise, I don't earn any money. This is the maximum price because higher than this, I think I ask an unfair price to the market. So I don't want to do that. And within that margin, you can ask our repricer to price your product within that margin, within those two boundaries. So you can use our product for anything you want to list the products, and then you get them back in. So you get your orders in, and then you need to fulfill them. But the good thing that our product then brings is you get all the orders from all these platforms in one big dashboard. So let's say you want to sell on 10 different platforms in Europe. So you want to do Cdiscount in France, you want to do Kaufland in Germany, Allegro in Poland, and Amazon all over Europe, and eBay all over Europe. If you would do that with the out-of-the-box tooling of these marketplaces, you would have to log in every day in like 10 different kind of backends, get your orders out of there, fulfill those orders. That's not doable. So what you want is one place where all these things come together, and all the data that comes together has extra value for you on selling on all of these platforms.
So that is Channel Engine.
That's
the
Channel
place
Engine.
where it all comes
Yeah.
together.
Everything comes together. Yeah.
Is this the future of e-commerce? So I think, let's say 10, 15 years ago, if you had a product, you wanted to sell it, you build your own web shop. Do you think that companies will still build web shops in 5 or 10 years? Or will everything be sold through marketplaces?
Yeah, that's a hard question. And like I said before, I consider myself a guy that can help people with vision to create that vision.
So what is your vision on this?
Yeah, so for now, I would think this is the future, right? So I think for the near future, like if we look 5 years ahead, marketplaces are any place that has a lot of customers that have the intention to buy something. That's where the transaction will happen. And for now, that's a lot of marketplaces, right? So in US, if you look for a product and you cannot find it on Amazon, I think you would think it doesn't exist. So right, Amazon is the e-commerce Google. If you search for something and Amazon doesn't have it, then well, apparently it's not for sale in America. So I'll look for another product. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the place marketplace will keep having for the coming 5 years. If you then look at changes that might come, that's maybe around social commerce, and then especially big community kind of platforms, and you can call that social platform, whatever you call it. But TikTok is a nice example. To be honest, I don't know a lot about TikTok. I'm 50. I don't do TikTok, so of course I know what it is. But if TikTok has a lot of people active on TikTok, and there's a lot of people that are there every day, that means that platform has a very big reach, very big consumer reach, right? They reach a lot of consumers. Yeah. So one of the things we're already having and we're experimenting with some of our bigger customers is, why not start shopping campaigns on TikTok? So if you do a shopping campaign on TikTok, and if you would like influencers that have TikTok presence, and they would kind of promote products, then why can't you just buy the product on the same platform? So what I think commerce has always been through the years, and will always stay, independent of the technology, is you need to be there where the question arises. So, and for now, that's still for coming years, to my opinion, marketplaces. But Channel Engine needs to be so good technically that it doesn't matter. I wouldn't care if within 2 years marketplaces would go down and some new initiative would come up. We should be able to connect to that. We should be able to help our customers then be present there. So my vision would be, and Jorrit's vision is the same, but he can just word it a bit better, I think. Everywhere where a commerce transaction starts, we want to be part of that. We want to empower our customers all over the world to be able to make their life easier in doing commerce. Okay. And we have nice examples, for example, in APAC. So we sell all over the world, like we are a global business. And we discovered through the years that doing e-commerce in Europe, doing e-commerce in the US, and doing e-commerce in APAC, although everyone thinks it's the same, right? It's all online. You list products, you sell products. There's a lot of differences in how commerce works in these different regions. It's not technical differences. It's just the way that people are used to buying goods and how to do that. And we need to be ready for that. We need to understand that and be ready. And a good example is we have a very, good and great APAC customer, so a customer that sells a lot in Thailand and in Singapore. And next to having online channels, so he still has his own shop, sells a lot to marketplaces, but he also sells a lot through his physical stores. So there's still in APAC, it's still a lot of physical stores that sell goods. And he wants to connect that also through us. He wants to have all his transaction, all his order movements through Channel Engine and connect that to his backend system. So that means that with them, we're now experimenting with getting point of sales orders actually in Channel Engine and run them through Channel Engine again. Because for him, that would mean that he can model stock locations in our system. He could model the stock in a shop, and he doesn't really care if someone comes in the shop and buys it there, or he would ship it from the shop. For him, it's just selling the product. So within Europe, we look at that a bit differently. Mostly people do online and shop orders as separate stock, right? They don't combine that, but he combined that, and that's a great use case. Yep. And then in the future, I don't know what happens. In-car commerce, is that going to be big? I don't know. I've already heard it years back at bol.com. It was in our pitch decks for investors from Channel Engine. Maybe it will. If everyone is charging their Tesla and is still sitting in the car, maybe you would just do a lot of in-car commerce, and maybe we can build some things that have some good functionality for that. I don't know. We'll discover. But I think commerce will definitely change. What I've saw in 15 years commerce is a lot of change, and that will still be there.
You started around 3 years ago at Channel Engine?
2 years.
2 years?
2 years.
You came on board to scale this organization again. That's your new challenge.
Yeah.
So how do you create a truly scalable organization? What is your style?
Yeah. Well, we discussed it a bit before, right? It's kind of a $1 billion question, to be honest. And I don't have the truth, right? I'm also still discovering every day how to do that. But I think one of the things I've learned quite fast in my career, quite early on, and I wasn't very good at it at that moment, that the first prerequisite of scaling, I guess, is that some people need to let go and other people need to pick up. And maybe my first scaling experience was actually when I was head of architecture at bol.com. We were with 4 people, and then we grew the team to 12 people, which was not a big scaling challenge on the HR part or something. But the big challenge for me was I needed to let go of being part of every architectural decision we took. And I loved being part of every kind of thing we changed. I knew the platform from start to end. So I wanted to be part of everything, which, to be honest, was quite annoying for my architects. Because, why did they hire very, very smart architects if I kept interfering with how they created designs and I kept having an opinion on what they were doing? And I learned through the years, and I'm now also using that at Channel Engine, but also trying to learn my leaders within Channel Engine to not step into that same trap. As a leader, you need to learn, how do I empower people around me so that they can actually do the work? And if I want to interfere, when do I actually do that? And is this specific thing I want to interfere on, is this really worth interfering on? And I kind of trained myself a bit, and that again, learned through the past. You cannot interfere every week on a lot of things, right? So I kind of trained myself. If I'm in a meeting, I kind of always said to myself, you have 3 chances maybe in this meeting. If I'm in a meeting of an hour, there are 3 chances to really give my opinion. If I do it more than that, then it's a bad meeting, right? Why would I keep telling my opinion? And then every time I think, okay, now I think I need to say something which is good for the rest of the room to know, and which is not meant to outsmart them, but to help them to maybe think of something differently. Every time I want to open my mouth, I kind of first try to think like, is this one really worth it? Is this one really worth mentioning this time? Or is it just my mind? And my mind goes, well, you know me a bit. My mind goes a lot of different ways. Is it just a nice idea which might be something worth mentioning afterwards at the coffee machine? But do I really want to make a point out of this in this meeting? And that was a hard journey for me to learn, to let go. And I see the same problem with big leaders in organizations. I see the challenge at Jorrit, right? As the founding CEO, I see the challenge at Christian, who's the head of technology. And I'm very, very happy. Without Christian, there wouldn't be any channel engine. And Christian is the brains behind the products. He still knows everything around channel engine. He knows how everything works. He's still one of the fastest guys on problems. If we really don't understand how things works, he can always find it out. And he made massive steps forward in letting go and letting other people pick up. But that's hard, because letting go and letting other people doing stuff also means that sometimes you think they do something which you think you could do better.
So do you coach Christian and Jorrit then from your previous experience?
Yeah. Well, especially Chris, right? So Chris and I have a very good relationship. We talk to each other weekly. We share a room. So yeah, I try to coach him to not only let go. That's one thing to coach, but Chris is, for me, the technical special one within the company. And that means that he needs to work on the stuff that is really, really moving the needle. So you need to put people on spots, so that not only goes for Chris, but it goes for all the teams. If you want to scale, you also need to think about how do I set up teams, but also how to create a good team. So it's like a sports team, right? You need different characters in the team. You need someone that takes the lead when it gets hard. You need someone that does think a bit more maybe than the rest, and it is kind of maybe a quality assurance in the team, a bit more a critical one, but you balance that out a bit. And yeah, if you're a scale-up, which we still are, then yeah, there is two things that are very valuable, and that's time and money. Because both you can only spend once.
Do you feel more like a coach right now after all these years of experience, or do you still feel like a technical leader in the company?
Bit of both, to be honest. But I'm way more a coach than I ever was, which I had to learn. Because in the past, I liked the technical work. I still do. But now I see that if I want to help scaling the company, yeah, that means helping people to grow. And that's first of all helping the leaders to grow, and not because I don't want to help other people to grow, but for me the first part of scaling would mean that if you create a group of leaders around you that can then help again the teams and that can grow the teams, then that's the first part in scaling, right? And we can do things parallel, and then the next thing would be also to coach individuals and to help them. And that's not necessarily product and tech, right? I think what I like a lot, I like that at Bol.com, but especially also at Channel Engine at the moment. The executive board, although we all have our role to play, right? So I do product and tech, Ed does at a CRO, so he does the revenue growth, Ruben the CFO, and Jorrit the CEO. But if something needs to be improved on the company, or needs to change, or we have a hard thing that needs to be fixed, we just look at ourselves, who from us is the best one to help. Yep. We don't care if it's a problem of product and tech or a problem of sales and marketing. But if we think I can help out sales and marketing, I will do. If I think it would be better for Ed to pick something up because he would be better fitted, or even Jorrit, because Jorrit still has a lot of knowledge on the product, yeah, please do. I don't care. We need to do what's best for Channel Engine. And that took me a long time, to be honest. I talk about it very easily, but I couldn't have done this when I was between 30 and 40.
Do you feel you're successful in this role right now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do. That's hard to say, to be honest. I never think about that way. Yeah, but I do, and it's also because I've already in 2 years seen a lot of people grow. I've seen people grow. I've seen even people grow that when I came in, that people said, yeah, we're a bit doubting about this person or a bit doubting about this person. Well, I'm not doubting about any person in my department. I think everyone within my department can still become at least twice as good if we empower them to become twice as good. It's more the organization that needs to create, that needs to foster the people you have, right? And create the environment for them to grow and create the environment to take ownership, be empowered, and then make the difference. I think that's going quite well. Yeah.
How do you develop yourself? And do you have like some role models that you still look up to? Do you read books?
Well, I think the most what I do to develop myself, I guess, is my network, to be honest. And I never thought about that a lot in the past, but I have kind of a big, broad network. That's also how we met, I guess, right? So we met last year at the Amsterdam Standards dinner in Amsterdam. So I have a broad network. I talk to a lot of people, and so I meet a lot of bright people, and I try to learn from them. I do read regularly, but I'm not a big business book reader, to be honest. A business book for me is too long.
A listener, maybe?
A listener sometimes, but also then for me, even sorry for the listeners on this one, but My concentration on reading big books or listening to long stories is quite short, to be honest. So I read a lot of articles, smaller articles. I read a lot of, I see a lot of YouTube videos, but it's mostly short. But I do talk to a lot of people. I do try to keep my memory fresh. I know, especially in the agile world, I met so many agile leaders which are still around, which I'm connected to LinkedIn. I read their posts. I don't have a role model, to be honest, in that sense, right? I don't have someone that I think is the best in something, but I have a lot of different people that I think have a lot of value to bring. And I try to combine that in a way that it works for Channel Engine. I also don't believe that there's one best way of doing agile, but I do believe there's a lot of different things already tried out in the world that you can use, and you don't have to invent yourself. You can build upon and you can change it for yourself. And that's one thing I've learned through the career is don't use things out of the book. Get inspired out of the book and then make it work for your own organization. Yeah. And every organization is unique. And some theories don't work at the moment because you're not ready for it or it's different. So at Channel Engine, so getting back to one of your questions in the beginning, Channel Engine is still a monolith. So when I came in, I thought, a monolithical application, what do I think of that? So my architecture mindset, that's not the way to go for the future. But then it's so cohesive what we have still. It's although it's a monolith on deployment, it's not a monolith on how Chris created it. It has very, very clear separation in the module structure of the product. So if you forget the deployment part, it's not a monolith at all. It's quite clean, separated into different things. And we don't have a big issue at the moment on releasing in the sense that we want to split it up. So we did have issues on releasing when I came in, and most of that we solved, but that was more on how many releases do we do? What's the quality of the release? But nothing would have become better if we would have broken up the monolith into different pieces. So I look at that way more practical now than I did at the Baltic.com time. And that's what I tried to do. And if I had to name one role model, because I had this question before, I think I had the opportunity to do a lot of coaching sessions the other way around. Right? I've been coached a lot by different people, which made me a better professional, better person also, I guess, a better human being, understanding myself better. And then one time I mentioned Foppe de Haan as a role model. And not to be honest, I know the guy from television. And
for the people who don't know him, he's I think quite a successful trainer. Also a guy from Friesland, of course.
Yeah, Foppe de Haan was the most successful trainer of Heerenveen. And Heerenveen is the local, one of the two local soccer clubs in Friesland. And he kind of always inspired me because, well, he was, to my opinion, a good coach. And I also read a lot of articles around that, right? Football International and everything connected to that. But also what I liked about him and what I always also try to achieve with my teams and within my organization, he wasn't a coach that wanted his team only to win. And so he hated winning with bad soccer or with unentertaining soccer. So he always thought like, but people come to the stadium to be entertained. If you come here, you should have a great night, right? And that always inspired me. And if I now look at my teams, I not only want my teams to be great at what they do and to create great software for our customers. Of course, that's what we need to do. But I want them to do that in a way that it brings them joy and happiness. It brings them personal growth. It brings them satisfaction. Because I don't believe that you can work hard and you can do that in a long time in a row if that's not happening. If you go out, if you come to work and you go home every day and you're that tired and you wake up the next day and you think, oh no, I have to go to work again, that's never going to work. I love going to Channel Engine. Even it takes me a long travel. I have to travel for 1 hour and 45 minutes. Wow. But I love going there and I love meeting up with the people. And that for me is what was inspired by Foppe. He was, for me, an easy guy to connect to because he's still a humble guy from the north of Friesland. That's also how he talks. But he is. He's still alive and he's still a very, very good professional with, to my opinion, a very good vision on how to create a team. How do you create a team that goes beyond doing what we asked them to do?
Did he ever publish like a book or a biography that people can read?
I did read a book about him. Which was also had a lot of recognition. He lives in Akram, a small village, He lives near the water, so he's also a guy that does a lot of boating and loves to be on the water. I have the same. I come from a youth. I did a lot of sailing. We lived in a village very near to the water.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I guess the book must be for sale on bol.com. So I will look up the link and I will put it in the notes of the podcast.
That would be nice.
That people can actually find it.
Yeah. And maybe then if you do that, a book, if people want to learn something from e-commerce in the Netherlands, please read The Geheim van bol.com.
Yeah.
That's the best book to read if you want to understand
I know.
history.
I listened to it and it's amazing. Yeah. Are you proud of what you have all accomplished in your career so far?
Yeah, again, a hard question, but yes, I am. And sometimes can't really say why, to be honest. But maybe the thing I'm the most proud of, that I've already worked for 27 years in the meantime, and I've always liked the work. And to be honest, when I look back at my youth and I look back at my parents' generation, that wasn't a given at that time. So. Even my dad, and I don't think my dad hates his work, right? He liked his work, but I know a lot of people that worked because you needed to work to earn money and to be able to pay for the mortgage and to get your kids through school, and of course that was very noble. So I'm not saying that in that time that wasn't a good thing. That was a very good thing, and I really love my parents for all the opportunities they gave to me. But I do like the fact that nowadays you can do that differently. You can do work that you really like, get appreciated for that, and even build a career out of that. And I do think I got, I don't know if I really got the most out of myself, but I do think I came quite close to get the best out of myself. Yeah.
And do you have had the opportunity to work with some indeed great founders, super visionary people? Did you ever had the ambition, or were you ever inspired by them to start your own business?
Thought about it in the past, to be honest.
Maybe in the future?
Yeah, no. I can honestly say no. And if that would happen, then something would have changed drastically. No, to be honest, and to make that very honest, I think I never had the guts to do that. Because of course it also brings insecurity. It means you step into something, that you're really on your own. And I was quite close. Before I joined Channel, so I talked to 3 companies when I left bol.com and wanted to join another company. I actually talked to 3. A big company, won't mention the name, doesn't really matter, but a really big company which had big plans in the Netherlands and wanted to pay me a salary I couldn't believe. But in the end I thought, no, I'm not leaving bol.com to work for a big company. Then I talked to a very small company, to a scale-up, not a scale-up, a startup. I wouldn't be then the founder, but I would be the founding CTO on that company. I spent the whole day with them. So I had dinner with Chris, he was called, Chris Leiten. I had dinner with him. I really liked the guy. And I spent the whole day with the team he already had to check would that work. And unfortunately I said no. He was quite disappointed. So sorry, Chris, again, if you still have feelings about that. But it didn't feel right in my body to do that because I think it wouldn't. What I'm good at, like I said before, I think is help a group of people to get the best out of themselves and to help a founding CEO of a company then to scale the company and to accomplish the dream. And I think a startup for me would be too small to add the value I could add, and not too small for me, right? That sounds strange, but I think I wouldn't be the best fit for a startup, but I think I am a very good fit for a scale-up. So I never had the guts to do it myself. I'm not disappointed in that, to be honest, so I never missed it. I think it also brings a level of pressure and stress and kind of responsibility that I'm not really... Well, having missed out on that, I don't really care for, right? Because that would have been harder, I guess. You have more experience than me, but I could imagine that there are times that it's quite hard, that the numbers are not coming in, that, I don't know, you need to maybe cut down a bit. It's not people look at good entrepreneurs when they're successful, but what they all had to do to come there, that's quite hard. Yeah. And I don't think I would like that part of it. I don't think I would be strong enough, to be honest, to help the group through that. I never had that ambition. And no, my dream would be, my personal dream on working, I'm a loyal person. When I joined Channel Engine, I've also said that to my team, I would love this to be my last job. And if that would be
another 15 years.
If that would be, I said to my guys, at least 10. But that's maybe overpromised. I don't know, right? But well, at least 5. My ambition would be 10, but maybe even 15 or 20.
Is there something you still want to achieve in terms of success? So, for example, an IPO at some point with Channel Engine, is that something that could still excite you?
Yeah, it could. So, and not for the sake of the IPO itself, but my big dream now is that we create out of Channel Engine such a successful company that we have a big group of people connected to that works with a lot of joy every day for Channel Engine and is proud of what we do and make it a global player. And for me, that's the difference, right? So I once said to my team, I worked for an iconic brand within the Netherlands. So I see bol.com as an iconic local brand.
For sure.
And my dream is that Channel Engine will become an iconic global brand. That people, if I would wear this sweater with Channel Engine and I would be in the US, that, for example, someone at JFK would come up to me and would talk to me. Because that would happen at bol.com. When I worked at bol.com, people would just come up to you and talk to you and have just great silly questions, right? I ordered something, my order got lost, can you help me? Which of course, and I tried to do, right? But it felt iconic. And I could also, and I always loved that, my kids could explain what I was doing. Working for bol.com was also, even for my wife, it was very easy to, what kind of job does your husband have? He works at bol.com. That would kind of be enough for them, right? And then they would ask, okay, what does he do there? But before she said he worked at Capgemini, and then half of the time, so people would ask, all right, and what's Capgemini, right? So, so Channel Engine becoming an iconic brand again and so recognizable that people have a very positive vibe around it. So for me, iconic means that a brand is a positive brand, right? Iconic, you have to earn that label. Yeah, that would be the dream. And if that takes 5 years and we would already be there and I would take, okay, guys, I'm going to take it easy. You can do it without me. That could happen. I don't think that's going to happen, but 10 years is what I kind of had in my mind when I joined, kind of work here again for at least 10 years.
And I guess you're pretty much on track because the company is doing extremely well, right?
Yeah, we're doing great. To be honest, getting a big global player is hard. I do like that. So I like the fact that we have to work for something which is big, but also it needs a lot of work, right? If it would be easy, then anyone would do it. So yeah, we're on track. And well, if you ask Jorrit, he says we're gonna be the biggest brand around e-commerce integration and sales in the future. I think we're gonna be part of the top 5. And then I hope Jorrit is right again, and he's mostly right and has the guts to think big. Yeah, our aim is to become the number 1 in this area of work.
After all these great stories, we're almost about to round off. So I have 2 more questions for you. There must have also been one thing in your career that went completely bad and wrong. So what is your biggest fuck up?
Oh, biggest fuck up. That's a hard question because we had multiple fuck ups at bol.com, big and small, to be honest. I'm sure I crashed the bol.com platform more than once. Also personally, so that will be one of them, right? So I don't have the top of mind, and that's maybe also I know for sure I broken bol.com multiple times. That could be by doing a content deployment which was totally wrong and then just broke the system, right? And then you had to fix that again. Could also be that we released stuff which really didn't work, or and that I pushed through and then broke everything for everyone. What I did learn from that is I do believe in fuck ups, but I think fuck ups are a very good thing. The only way to learn very fast is to make a lot of mistakes. And the only thing you need to safeguard is that the mistake is not so big that you cannot correct it. But make a big mistake, correct it fast is the fastest way to learn. And then looking back, maybe my biggest fuck up, to be honest, is that I still believed, and then William, I'm actually saying this, William was the guy on the ATG project, which he and I were doing most of the project management together. He already told me, Feike, we're not going to make this. And my biggest fuck up might have been that I kept believing that we could make the end of the planning within time, while I should have already listened to him. It's not going to work. We need to sit down. We need to steer, and we did in the end, right? So we changed that, but keeping to the planning so long, in my mind, that we could still make it was totally wrong. And that might have been a bigger fuck up than just a big mistake that broke something, because that cost us time. If we would have done this a month earlier, we could have maybe been a month earlier on go live. And the other fuck ups, I think, if I look at fuck ups, it's sometimes that I had good, great people in my teams, but either I couldn't see it yet. So in my younger years, I'm sure, and I can even bring some people to mind that I couldn't work with, and not because they were not good, but because I, at that moment, didn't have the flexibility or the skill to make it work. And I'm quite proud that I changed that a lot, right? That your question before, I consider myself more a coach than a technical leader, and I consider myself both, but I really like the fact that, people come up to me within Channel Engine, that if people want to learn something, want to be coached or struggling with something, then I'm an easy person for them to go up with. And so for me, a big fuck up would also be not being able to get the best out of a person that has a lot of qualities. And I've seen that a few times in my past happening with myself, also with other leaders. Like, I think the biggest fuck up as a leader you can make is not doing the effort to get the best out of people. And then still, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? We're a scale up. We don't have endless time. We don't have endless money. So you also need to be able to be firm on that. But at least you can do is try and help someone to get the best out of itself. And if the best is not good enough for what you need, then just have a grown-up conversation about that. And also be honest in that, right? This is what we need. You cannot bring what we need, but I'm still going to help you to the outside world to find a better spot. And that I would really consider. If I would do that now, that would really be a fuck up for me. Not getting the best out of people.
What is your final and best advice for other people who are scaling a tech company?
Yeah, maybe
you already just answered it.
Yeah, maybe scaling in general. And your question kind of triggered my mind. I think for me, the hardest thing to actually think objectively about scaling was forcing myself to let go. Yeah. So I think the first step in scaling, and that's not. Then you still have to do a lot of things. So read books, listen to people, agile gurus. There's a lot of people out there that did this before, but the first prerequisite to scale is to actually let go and teach your leaders. So what I see a lot in smaller companies, you also see it in Channel Engine. If you have a lot of young leaders, then what you need to teach them is, although they are responsible, and yes, if things go wrong, they will also be confronted with that. But if you want to build a team that does the work and you don't want to do all the work yourselves, then you have to let go and empower them and still feel responsible for what your team does. If it goes sour, you still need to be there. If we break the system on a release, and luckily that doesn't happen a lot anymore, but if it happens, I'm there. And if it happens, I'm helping out. I'm not shouting, why did you break it? No. We put everyone in a room, we analyze the data, we say, what did we do? Why doesn't it work? What did we do wrong? How can we fix it very fast? And what can we learn from it and do it better next time? And that's also scaling. You don't just scale. Scaling is a journey. You do steps forward and then you do a step behind again, and then you have to learn from that, do a retro and think, what do I need? And you need to keep doing it constantly. So what didn't work today could work next year. So it's not that you can prove, we tried this doesn't work, so this doesn't work for this company. And that's one thing. If you sit within companies long, I've done it at Capgemini and at Bol.com, and I hope to do it at Channel Engine. You also learn that. You cannot say, we already tried this. And I've also, I think, done that in the past a few times. So getting back to fuck-ups, something that doesn't work today could work in a year's time. Because in a year's time, the context is different, you are different, the people are different. So you should always keep your mind open, even for things that didn't work in the past. Yeah, just test them again. And maybe now it does work, and then keep open. And don't say, no, we tried this before, it doesn't work. So my brother worked a long time at Philips, at a local factory in Drachten that creates the shavers. And of course, that's a hard metaphor because it's a different company, right? Building products is hard, building physical products. But one of the things which was very hard for that company and which was hard for him to deal with because he was on the innovation side. Some of the things were just, we always do it. We've done this way for years, right? So he wanted to do some changes on manufacturing, but that does mean that some of the machines had to be reconfigured. And that's not a small thing. Reconfiguring production machines is a big thing.
Yeah.
And then you would always get into the argument, are we really going to try that? Because it's a big investment to do that. But you cannot say, we've always done this way, so we keep doing it this way. That's not, then a company won't survive. And we're in tech. So the lucky thing of software is it's quite easy to change. You could even just throw complete parts away and build it again, right? It's
True.
So the lucky part of software, and people should never forget that, is it doesn't have to work forever. So you need to create good software that does what it needs to do in the time frame you are looking at. But if e-commerce would totally change in 2 years' time, our product should be able to adapt to that. We should be able to adapt the product quite easily. So it should be a movable piece of software. It should be very maneuverable. That's a big requirement for anything you build on a market that is not mature yet.
Thank you, Feike. That is probably the best and longest advice that we had here. Thank you so much for sharing this whole journey with us. It's highly interesting. I hope you didn't mind talking so much about yourself. You told me before that you were actually not the person that usually does that. So again, thank you so much. I really think you should write your own memories because you have so much knowledge to share with the world. But amazing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity. And who knows, maybe if I write a book, I'll ask you to pre-read it before we
Let's
bring
do
it
that.
out.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Feike, for sharing your very inspiring journey with us. Feike is that super knowledgeable and likable person that everyone keeps complimenting all the time for how much impact he has on them. The founder of Channel Engine, Jorrit, told me once, only when Feike joined, I could finally fully focus on my responsibilities as a CEO. And I guess that's a huge compliment. And as a proud supplier of Channel Engine, also my people at Amsterdam Standard confirmed me many times that Feike brings so much knowledge and expertise that it helped us to become way more professional, and he helped us to become a better IT company. Good luck, Feike, with your ambition to conquer the whole world with Channel Engine. But make sure we can still do some window shopping on Saturdays in the high streets, please. In the next episode, I will talk again with an inspiring guest from the tech industry. So please subscribe to this podcast and listen again. Thanks, see you next time, and I wish you a wonderful day.